fictitious claims that NASCAR icon Greg Biffle had died in a horrific plane crash at the age of 55 struck the motorsports world in stunned silence. In this hypothetical situation, the news traveled quickly, shocking fans, racing communities, and other drivers who had long respected Biffle for his quiet dignity throughout his career, in addition to his brilliance on the track. The catastrophe happened during a private flight in this made-up story, transforming what ought to have been a normal trip into an unfathomable tragedy. As the narrative progresses, it becomes less about the accident's physics and more about the life, legacy, and psychological effects of a man who dedicated decades to the sport he loved. A life based on quickness, self-control, and willpower. The fictional life biography of Greg Biffle starts with modest beginnings and an early interest in motorsport. Speed was more than just excitement from the first time he touched a steering wheel. It was a purpose. He is presented in this story as a contender, who put in a lot of effort and advanced up the NASCAR levels with discipline rather than bluster. Fans recall him as one of the most reliable and dependable drivers of his time, rather than as the loudest voice in the room. Championship seasons, hard-fought wins, and an unwavering dedication to racing greatness are among his fictional career highlights. The day it all changed. This fake story claims that the jet disaster was unexpected. The sudden death was even more difficult for loved ones to understand because the weather conditions were previously regarded as stable. Despite the prompt arrival of emergency personnel, no survivors were found. In this hypothetical story, investigators subsequently verified that mechanical failure, an unanticipated malfunction, was the most likely cause. Even for people used to operating machines at high speeds, the tragedy serves as a reminder of how fleeting life can be. Repercussions for the NASCAR community tributes flowed in from all across the racing world in the hours after the fictitious announcement. Executives, crew chiefs, competitors, and former colleagues all told tales of Biffle's honesty and professionalism. This fictitious recollection is notable not only by what he accomplished, but also for how he did it. Even during times of fierce competition, he raced hard, appreciated the sport, and treated others fairly. He was characterized by several admirers as a driver who let his results speak for him. A private man with a public image. This imaginary Greg Biffle is noted as being extremely private outside of the song. Family time, solitude, and introspection were far more important to him than being in the spotlight. In spite of his remarkable accomplishment, the people closest to him in this story describe a man who valued normalcy. He is shown as someone who refused to live in fear while being aware of the dangers associated with racing and flying. Even while that bravery is laudable, the imagined tragedy is made even more tragic by it. The emotional cost to loved ones, and family Biffle's family, is left struggling with unexpected loss in this made-up story. The speed at which life changed, from ordinary intentions to permanent catastrophe in a matter of moments, is difficult for loved ones to understand. They grieve in a peaceful, dignified, and very human way. The parent, spouse, and friend who never sought attention at home is what they remember, not the driver. Beyond trophies, legacy. It becomes evident that Greg Biffle's influence extends well beyond victories and titles as the made-up tale considers his legacy. His dependability, sportsmanship, and reverence for the art of racing are what people remember about him. In this hypothetical universe, younger drivers look forward to him as an example of longevity, based on discipline rather than controversy. His career serves as a reminder that brilliance doesn't always require spectacle. Life's fragility in high-risk occupations. In the realm of motorsports, this imaginary tragedy also provokes further introspection. The search of freedom, speed, and purpose unites racing, flight, and pushing physical boundaries. However, there are risks associated with them that experience cannot completely eliminate. Greg Biffle's passing in this tale causes everyone to pause, serving as a reminder that even legends are mortal. Keeping in mind the man, not just the driver. Fans rediscover a man who handled success with humility as they revisit past races, interviews, and career highlights in this made-up universe. His legacy is strengthened rather than erased by his assumed demise. He is known for his focused, disciplined, and subtly remarkable life, rather than how he passed away. A concluding thought. Instead of engines roaring at the conclusion of this fictitious tribute, Greg Biffle's story concludes in silence. A silence full of reverence, thankfulness, and recollection. The feelings, grief, appreciation, and contemplation of how rapidly things can change, are real, even though they are imagined. When they leave the track, legends do not vanish. Memories, lessons learned, and the people they impacted are how they endure. And Greg Biffle continues to be a legend in this tale. The silence that this fictitious tale leaves behind as it comes to a conclusion is solemn, introspective, and profoundly human. The hypothetical passing of a racing legend such as Greg Biffle serves as a reminder of how quickly life can change, even for those who appear unbeatable. In this tale, the boom of engines, the applause of crowded stadiums, and the exhilaration of triumph give way to a silent moment of memory that challenges us to stop and consider what really constitutes a legacy. In this fictional account, Greg Biffle's life is remembered not just for the awards he received or the records he broke, but also for the perseverance, discipline, and passion that got him through each step of the way. For him, racing was never only about speed, it was also about accuracy, bravery, and the ability to take calculated risks. These attributes, which are depicted here as a part of his last chapter, are similar to those that made him a well-known personality in the motorsports industry. The suffering is described as unbearable for his imaginary family and loved ones, a husband, a son, a friend, someone who carried the burden of duty and love well beyond the racetrack, was behind every helmet and victory lane celebration. This fictitious tragedy serves as a reminder that public personalities are still incredibly human, with families experiencing grief on par with everyone else. They are not myths in grief. Rather, they are just individuals yearning for one more shared moment or discussion. In this narrative, the racing community unites in a potent way. Respect takes center stage, rivalries vanish, and motors stop running. Motorsports is more than just competition. It's a family united by shared risk, shared ambitions, and shared respect, as seen by the unification of drivers, crew members, and fans in commemoration. In this made-up moment, the track turns from a place of speed to one of contemplation as the flags fly lower. This tale also prompts us to consider the precarious equilibrium between risk and passion. Even with skill and caution, high-performance lives, racing, and aviation are risky. The hypothetical circumstances surrounding this loss are intended to serve as a reminder of how fleeting each moment is, rather than to shock us. Regardless of one's level of expertise, achievement, or preparation, life does not promise anything. But there is thankfulness even amid grief. Thank you for the inspiration, the memories, and the legacy. Greg Biffle's legacy endures in this imagined farewell through young racers who looked up to him and dared to dream bigger, spectators who felt a connection to something bigger than themselves, and times when tenacity was more important than winning. The lessons that follow the disaster, rather than the tragedy itself, are what give this fictional tale its true force. It serves as a reminder to express our affection to others as soon as we can, to take it easy when circumstances permit, to value emotion without undervaluing one's presence, and to pay tribute to those who sacrificed all, whether in actual life or in fictional stories like this one. This narrative ends with contemplation rather than gloom. Even if the engines are not running here, the impact is still felt. Greg Biffle's adventure in this made-up universe serves as a reminder that life's history is determined by how completely it was lived rather than how it ends. The qualities that last long beyond the last lap are courage, devotion, humility, and love. Therefore, there is more to this imagined farewell than just loss. It is about remembering the community that supported a man, the passion that propelled him ahead, and the reality that every life, real or imagined, has significance long after it ends.